They thought humans were weak. Then paid the price for letting him fight back. Danny Carter wiped the grease from his hands and looked at the broken cooling unit. It was the third one this week that had failed in the lower levels of Zenith 7. The massive space station was home to thousands of aliens from hundreds of different worlds, and the maintenance systems were always breaking down. He pulled his tools from his belt and got to work. Danny had been on the station for 3 months now, ever since Earth joined the galactic community. Back home, he had been a combat engineer in the military. Here, he was just another human trying to make a living among the stars. The problem was simple. Most aliens thought humans were weak. They saw Earth's people as small, soft, and fragile compared to the other species in the galaxy. Danny had learned to keep his head down and ignore the comments. It was easier that way. He finished repairing the cooling unit and packed his tools. The corridor was empty and quiet, which was unusual. Most of the time, this level was busy with workers moving supplies and equipment. Danny felt something was wrong, but he started walking toward the elevator anyway. That was when they appeared. 5 Krellans stepped out from side passages, blocking his path. Krellans were big, at least 7 feet tall, with thick scales covering their bodies. They looked like walking lizards with too many muscles. The leader, a Krellan with a scar across his face, smiled, showing sharp teeth. "Human, give us your money." Danny stopped walking. He knew this might happen someday. The Krellans ran protection rackets in the lower levels, and the station's security rarely came down here. "I don't want any trouble," Danny said calmly. "Then give us your earnings," the scarred Krellan said. "All humans are weak. You cannot stop us." Danny thought about his options. He could give them the money, but they would just keep coming back. He could try to run, but they were faster. Or he could do what his training had taught him. "No," Danny said simply. The Krellans looked surprised. Clearly, they had expected the human to surrender without a fight. The leader nodded to his companions and they moved forward. Danny did not wait for them to attack. He moved first, stepping inside the reach of the nearest Krellan and driving his elbow into the alien's throat. The Krellan made a choking sound and stumbled back. Danny spun and kicked another one in the knee, hearing something crack, but there were too many of them. A fist hit Danny in the ribs and pain exploded through his chest. Another punch caught him in the face and he tasted blood. The Krellans surrounded him, hitting him from all sides. Danny fought back with everything he had. He used his elbows, his knees, his head. He grabbed a loose pipe from the wall and swung it hard, connecting with a Krellan's arm. The alien howled in pain. Finally, the Krellans backed away. 2 of them were injured, one holding his throat and another limping badly. The leader looked angry and confused. "You will regret this, human," the scarred Krellan said. Then they left, disappearing into the shadows. Danny leaned against the wall, breathing hard. His ribs hurt badly and his face was swelling. But he had survived. More importantly, he had shown them that humans were not as weak as they thought. Unknown to Danny, someone had been watching the fight. In a dark office on another level, a massive alien named Torvik replayed the security footage. Torvik was a Grundian, almost 9 feet tall with 4 arms and gray skin like stone. He ran the illegal fighting arena in the abandoned sections of the station. Torvik watched the human fight with interest. The human was smaller and weaker than the Krellans, but he had fought smart. He had used speed, technique, and weapons from the environment. This was exactly the kind of fighter that would bring in big money. Torvik made a call. "Find out everything about this human. I want him in my arena." The next day, Danny went back to work despite his injuries. He told his supervisor that he had fallen down some stairs. The supervisor, a bored Krellan clerk, did not care enough to ask questions. Danny was repairing a power junction when Ambassador Lisa Morgan found him. She was Earth's diplomatic representative on the station, a smart woman in her 40s who worked hard to protect human interests. "Danny Carter?" she asked. He looked up. "Yes, ma'am. I saw the security report from yesterday. 5 Krellans were treated for injuries in the lower levels. The report said they claimed to have been attacked by a human." Danny said nothing. "The station security is investigating," Lisa continued. "But between you and me, those Krellans are known criminals. I'm glad someone finally stood up to them." "I just defended myself," Danny said quietly. "I know. But be careful. Commander Vex, the security chief, is a Krellan himself. He might not see it that way." Lisa left and Danny went back to work. He hoped the incident was over. But his troubles were just beginning. That evening, Danny received a message on his communication device. It was from his younger sister, Kelly, who was arriving on the station tomorrow. She had won a research position studying alien plant biology. Danny had been looking forward to seeing her. He went to the docking bay the next day to meet her ship. Kelly was 25 years old, smart and full of energy. She hugged him tightly when she stepped off the transport. "I missed you so much," she said. Then she looked at his bruised face. "What happened to you?" "Just an accident at work," Danny lied. "Nothing to worry about." They walked through the station together and Danny showed her where she would be living and working. Kelly was excited about everything, asking questions about the different alien species and the station's facilities. Danny felt happy for the first time in months. Having his sister here made the station feel less lonely. But that night everything changed. Danny was in his quarters when his door chimed. He opened it to find a small device on the floor. When he picked it up, a holographic image appeared. It was Torvik. The massive Grundian smiled with too many teeth. "Hello, Danny Carter. I have been watching you. You fight well for a human. I want you to fight in my arena. You will face strong opponents and people will bet money on who wins." "I am not interested," Danny said to the hologram. "I thought you might say that," Torvik replied. "So I took steps to change your mind." The image shifted and Danny's blood went cold. Kelly was sitting in a dark room tied to a chair. She looked scared but unharmed. "Your sister is safe for now," Torvik said. "But if you want her to stay that way, you will fight. Win 3 matches and she goes free. Refuse and she dies. You have 1 hour to decide." The hologram disappeared and Danny stood frozen. His mind raced through options, but there were none. He could not go to station security because they would never act in time. He could not fight his way to Kelly because he had no idea where Torvik was keeping her. He had only one choice. He had to fight. Danny sent a message accepting Torvik's terms. Within minutes, 2 large aliens arrived at his door to escort him to the arena. As they led him through dark corridors into the abandoned lower decks, Danny made himself a promise. He would win these fights. He would save his sister, and then he would make Torvik pay for this. The aliens thought humans were weak. They were about to learn how wrong they were. They thought humans were weak, Aero, then paid the price for letting him fight back. The guards pushed Danny through a metal door, and he found himself in a large circular room. The arena. It was built in one of the abandoned cargo bays deep in the station's lower levels, far from any official security patrols. The floor was covered in old metal plates and scattered debris. High above, lights hung from the ceiling, creating harsh shadows. Around the arena, there were seats rising up in circles, and they were filled with aliens. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all watching and waiting. Danny looked at the crowd. He saw Krellans, Quellans, Raxians, and dozens of other species he could not name. They were talking, laughing, and placing bets on their communication devices. To them, this was entertainment. In a private box above the arena, Torvik sat on a massive chair. His forearms gestured as he spoke to his associates. He saw Danny looking up and smiled. "Welcome to the arena, human." Torvik's voice boomed through speakers. "The rules are simple. You fight until your opponent cannot continue or dies. If you refuse to fight, your sister dies. If you try to escape, your sister dies. If you lose, your sister dies. Win 3 fights and she goes free. Do you understand?" Danny nodded. He had no choice but to understand. "Excellent," Torvik said. "Let us begin." A door on the opposite side of the arena opened. Something large walked through and the crowd roared with excitement. Danny's first opponent had arrived. It was a Thorian, one of the hunter species from the outer systems. The creature stood 8 feet tall, covered in thick armored plates that looked like stone. It had 4 legs and 2 powerful arms ending in claws. Its eyes glowed red in the dim light. The crowd laughed and cheered. They thought this would be over quickly. A human against a Thorian was not a fair fight. It was an execution. The Thorian roared and charged forward, moving fast despite its size. Danny rolled to the side, barely avoiding the attack. The creature's claws smashed into the floor where Danny had been standing, leaving deep marks in the metal. Danny scrambled to his feet and backed away, keeping his eyes on the Thorian. The creature turned and charged again. This time, Danny grabbed a piece of broken pipe from the debris on the floor and held it like a spear. When the Thorian came close, Danny dodged to the left and swung the pipe hard at the creature's front leg. The pipe rang like a bell as it hit the armor, but the Thorian barely seemed to notice. Its armor was too thick. The Thorian swiped at Danny with its claws. Danny ducked under the attack but felt the wind from how close it came. He was breathing hard now, and his ribs from yesterday's fight still hurt. He needed to think. The Thorian was stronger, bigger, and better protected. Danny could not win by hitting harder. He had to be smarter. Danny watched the way the Thorian moved. The creature relied on brute force, charging straight ahead and using its strength. But there were gaps in its armor at the joints where the legs connected to the body. Those were the weak points. The Thorian charged again. This time, Danny did not dodge to the side. He ran forward, sliding under the creature's body like a baseball player sliding into home base. As he slid past, he thrust the pipe up into the joint of the Thorian's rear leg. The creature howled in pain and stumbled. Danny rolled away and got to his feet. The Thorian was limping now, favoring its injured leg. The crowd grew quieter. They had not expected the human to hurt the Thorian. Danny did not give his opponent time to recover. He circled around, staying away from the claws, and attacked the same leg again, then again. Each time, the Thorian became slower and weaker. Finally, the Thorian collapsed to 3 legs, unable to support its weight. Danny moved in quickly and struck at another joint, then another. Within minutes, the mighty hunter was lying on the ground, unable to rise. The arena fell silent. Danny stood over his defeated opponent, breathing hard. He had won. Torvik's voice broke the silence. "The human wins. Take the Thorian away." Guards came and dragged the injured creature from the arena. Danny dropped the pipe and waited. He knew there would be more fights. "Most interesting," Torvik said, sounding pleased. "You did not try to match strength with strength. You found the weakness and exploited it. Very clever for such a weak species. Rest now, human. Your next fight is tomorrow." They took Danny to a holding cell beneath the arena. It was a small room with a bed, a toilet, and nothing else. The door locked with a heavy metallic sound. Danny sat on the bed and examined his injuries. He had some new cuts and bruises, but nothing serious. He had been lucky. The Thorian was powerful, but not very smart. The next opponent might be different. The door opened and a small alien entered carrying food and water. It was a Quellan, thin and short with big eyes. The creature looked nervous. "Here is your food," the Quellan said quietly. "You fought well today." "Thank you," Danny said. "What is your name?" "Pip. I clean the arena and bring food to fighters." The Quellan looked around nervously. "I should not talk to you." "Why are you here, Pip? Are you a prisoner too?" The small alien nodded sadly. "Torvik took me from my ship 3 months ago. He said I owed him money. Now I work for him or he will hurt my family." Danny felt anger rising in his chest. Torvik was not just running illegal fights. He was a slaver and a criminal who hurt innocent people. "I am sorry," Danny said. Pip left quickly and Danny was alone again. He ate the food, which tasted terrible, and tried to sleep. But his mind kept thinking about Kelly. Was she safe? Was she scared? He had to win these fights and get her back. The next day they brought him back to the arena. The crowd was even larger this time. Word had spread about the human who defeated a Thorian. His second opponent was a Slathi, a species that looked like a snake with arms. The creature was 12 feet long, covered in purple scales, and could produce electricity from its body. Danny had seen Slathi before on the station. They were dangerous and fast. The fight began. The Slathi moved like lightning, its body coiling and striking. Danny dodged the first attack, but the second one caught him in the shoulder. Electricity coursed through his body, and he fell to the ground, his muscles jerking. The crowd cheered. They thought it was over, but Danny forced himself to move. The electricity hurt badly, but he had been trained to function through pain. He crawled toward a broken water pipe he had noticed earlier. Water was dripping from it onto the floor. The Slathi came after him, confident in its victory. It raised its body, electricity crackling along its scales, preparing for the killing strike. Danny grabbed the pipe and tore it open. Water gushed out, spreading across the metal floor. The Slathi slithered forward into the water and then sent its electric attack. But electricity and water do not mix well. The Slathi's own power conducted through the water back into its body. The creature convulsed and collapsed, knocked unconscious by its own attack. Danny stood up, dripping wet and in pain, but alive. The crowd was going crazy now, shocked and amazed. 2 victories, Torvik announced. The human is full of surprises. Tomorrow we shall see if he can win his 3rd and final fight. That night, Pip brought Danny food again. The small Quellan also brought something else. A small data pad showing security footage. "This is where your sister is being held," Pip whispered. Level 42, Section 7. I thought you should know. Why are you helping me? Danny asked. Because you shared your food with me yesterday even though you had little. Because you treated me with kindness. Not many do that here. Pip looked at Danny seriously. Your third opponent is Krell. He has won 17 fights. He has never lost. He has killed most of his opponents. After Pip left, Danny studied the datapad and thought about his situation. He had won 2 fights by being smart and using the environment. But Krell would be different. Krell was the champion. He would not make mistakes. Danny had one more fight to win. Then he could save Kelly and end this nightmare. The question was, could he survive against an opponent who had never lost? They thought humans were weak. Tapu. Then paid the price for letting him fight back. Danny spent the night studying the recordings of Krell's fights on the datapad Pip had given him. The Vraxian champion was everything the rumors said. 4 arms, each as thick as tree trunks, scales harder than the Thorian's armor, speed that seemed impossible for something so large, and 17 wins, most of them ending in death for his opponents. But Danny watched carefully. He was looking for patterns, weaknesses, anything he could use. That was how humans survived in a galaxy full of stronger species. They observed. They learned. They adapted. He noticed something interesting. Krell was powerful, but he was also arrogant. He played with weaker opponents, taking his time, showing off for the crowd. He had never faced anyone who could truly challenge him, so he had never learned to take a fight seriously from the start. That could be an advantage. Maybe. Danny also noticed that Krell favored his upper right arm. He used it for most of his killing strikes. The other arms were strong, but that one was his primary weapon. If Danny could injure that arm early, it might even the odds slightly. When morning came, guards took Danny from his cell. They walked him through corridors filled with aliens heading to the arena. The betting on this fight had reached crazy levels. Everyone wanted to see if the human could defeat the champion. In the arena, the crowd was the biggest yet. Every seat was full and aliens were standing in the aisles. The noise was deafening. They were chanting Krell's name, expecting to see the human die. Torvik stood in his box, all 4 arms raised for silence. Today we witness the final fight of the human. If he wins, he earns his freedom and his sister's life. If he loses, both die. Let us welcome the undefeated champion, Krell. The opposite door opened and Krell entered. He was even bigger than he looked in the recordings. 12 feet tall, covered in dark red scales with 4 arms, each ending in claws like knives. His eyes were yellow and cold, like a predator looking at prey. The crowd roared. Krell raised his arms and beat his chest, making a sound like thunder. He looked at Danny and laughed. A human? Krell's voice was deep and mocking. They send me a human? This will be over quickly. Danny said nothing. He was breathing slowly, staying calm, focusing his mind. He had learned long ago that talking before a fight was pointless. Actions mattered, not words. The bell rang and the fight began. Krell did not charge like the Thorian. He walked forward slowly, confidently taking his time. He wanted the crowd to enjoy this. He wanted the human to be afraid. Danny circled to the right, keeping distance between them. He picked up a piece of metal pipe from the debris. It was not much of a weapon, but it was better than nothing. Krell laughed again. You think that little stick will help you? I have killed opponents 3 times your size. Then Krell moved, and he was fast. His upper right arm shot forward, claws aiming for Danny's throat. Danny barely dodged, feeling the air move as the claws passed inches from his face. The lower left arm came next, sweeping low. Danny jumped over it, but the upper left arm caught him in the chest, sending him flying backward. Danny hit the arena wall hard, pain exploding through his already injured ribs. He tasted blood. The crowd cheered. This was what they wanted to see. Danny forced himself to stand. Krell was walking toward him, still taking his time, still confident. Danny's mind raced. He could not match Krell's strength or speed. He needed to change the rules of the fight. Krell attacked again, all 4 arms moving in a pattern. Danny dodged and weaved, getting hit more than he avoided. Each hit sent fresh pain through his body. But he was learning Krell's patterns, seeing how the champion moved. Danny let himself fall after the next hit, pretending to be hurt worse than he was. He lay on the ground, not moving. Krell stood over him, victorious. So weak, like all humans. He reached down with his upper right arm to grab Danny's head, probably planning to crush it. Danny's eyes snapped open. He thrust the metal pipe upward with all his strength. driving it into the joint of Krell's upper right arm where the scales were thinner. Krell roared in pain and stumbled back. Dark blood dripped from the wound. His favorite arm was hurt. The crowd went silent. No one had ever injured Krell before. The champion's yellow eyes filled with rage. The playful arrogance was gone. Now Krell was angry, and that made him dangerous in a different way. Krell charged forward, abandoning technique for pure rage. His 3 good arms swung wildly. Danny could not dodge them all. One caught him in the leg, another in the shoulder. He went down hard, but rage also made Krell sloppy. Danny rolled away and used a support pillar to pull himself up. His leg hurt badly. He might have broken something, but he could still move. Danny noticed something about the arena's structure. There were metal cables hanging from the ceiling, part of the old cargo system. They were strong enough to hold heavy loads, strong enough to hold Krell. Danny needed to get Krell close to one of those cables. But how? Krell came at him again, and this time Danny ran. The crowd booed, thinking the human was just trying to escape. But Danny was leading Krell toward the center of the arena where the cables hung. Krell followed, driven by rage and the need to kill. He wanted to make the human suffer for daring to hurt him. When they reached the right spot, Danny stopped running. He turned to face Krell, standing directly under one of the cables. "Is that all you have?" Danny shouted at the champion. "You are supposed to be undefeated, but you fight like a child." Krell's rage exploded. He charged straight at Danny, all 3 good arms reaching forward for the kill. Danny waited until the last second, then dove to the side. Krell's momentum carried him forward, unable to stop. Danny grabbed the hanging cable and looped it around Krell's upper right arm, the injured one, then pulled hard. Krell's charge pulled the cable tight. His own strength and weight worked against him. The cable wrapped around his arm and pulled up, yanking the champion off balance. Danny did not stop. While Krell was tangled and off balance, Danny attacked the champion's legs. He used everything he had learned in 20 years of combat training. He struck at knees, at ankles, at the weak points behind the scales. Krell tried to fight back, but with one arm tangled and his balance broken, he could not bring his full power to bear. Danny was too close, moving too fast, hitting too many weak points. The champion fell to one knee, then both knees. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Danny grabbed another cable and wrapped it around Krell's lower arms, using the champion's own struggles to tighten the bonds. Within minutes, the undefeated champion was on the ground, tied up by cargo cables, unable to rise. The arena was completely silent. No one could believe what they had just seen. A human, the weakest species in the galaxy, had defeated Krell. Danny stood over the fallen champion, breathing hard, covered in blood and bruises. Every part of his body hurt, but he had won. He looked up at Torvik's box. 3 fights, I won. Now let my sister go. But Torvik did not look pleased. He looked angry. The Grundian stood up, all 4 arms crossed. You have won your fights, Torvik said. But you have cost me a great deal of money. Many people bet against you, and now I must pay them. I do not like losing money. Armed guards entered the arena, at least 20 of them, all carrying weapons. I have decided to change the rules, Torvik continued. You and your sister both know too much about my operation. You both must die. The guards raised their weapons, aiming at Danny. He was too injured to fight them all. After everything, it seemed he would die anyway. But then the arena lights surged and went out. In the darkness, Danny heard the sound of metal doors exploding. When the emergency lights came on, Danny saw station security forces pouring into the arena, led by Ambassador Lisa Morgan and a human security officer named Kyle Brooks. This arena is shut down, Lisa announced. Everyone here is under arrest for participating in illegal activities. The crowd panicked, aliens running in all directions. The guards dropped their weapons and tried to flee. Torvik tried to escape through a back door, but Commander Vex himself was there waiting. Danny fell to his knees, exhausted. It was over. He had survived. Lisa came to him with a medical team. We have been tracking Torvik for weeks. When your sister was taken, Kyle found the evidence we needed. We came as fast as we could, Kelly? Danny asked. Safe, we found her first. She is waiting for you. As the medical team took Danny away, the aliens in the arena looked at him with new eyes. The human had defeated 3 opponents, including the champion. He had done what should have been impossible. The galaxy's view of humanity was about to change. They thought humans were weak, then paid the price for letting him fight back. Danny woke up in a medical facility 3 days later. His body was wrapped in bandages and machines beeped softly around him. The pain was still there, but it was manageable now. Human doctors and alien medical staff had worked together to heal his injuries. Kelly was sitting in a chair beside his bed. When she saw him wake up, she grabbed his hand and started crying. "You idiot," she said, smiling through her tears. "You could have died." "But I did not," Danny replied quietly. "And you are safe. That is all that matters." Over the next few days, Danny learned what had happened after his rescue. Torvik and all his associates were arrested. The fighting arena was shut down. Hundreds of aliens who had attended the fights faced charges. The scandal reached across the station and beyond. But something else was happening too. News of Danny's fights had spread across the galactic community at incredible speed. The recordings had been shared on millions of networks. Every species in the galaxy was talking about the human who defeated Krell. Ambassador Lisa Morgan came to visit. She brought someone with her, a human woman in a military uniform. "Danny, this is Captain Helen Foster of the United Earth Defense Force," Lisa said. The captain shook Danny's hand firmly. "It is an honor to meet you. What you did in that arena has changed everything for our species." "I just did what I had to do," Danny said. "That is exactly the point," Captain Foster replied. "You showed the galaxy what humans are capable of. For months, other species have been treating us like we are weak and helpless. They thought we were the bottom of the galactic hierarchy. But you proved them wrong." Lisa pulled up a holographic display. It showed news reports from across the galaxy. Danny saw his own face on hundreds of screens, saw analysis of his fights being discussed by military experts from dozens of worlds. "Alien scientists are studying human physiology now," Lisa explained. "They are trying to understand how you won. They measured us wrong from the start. They looked at strength, speed, and natural weapons. But they missed what makes humans special." "What is that?" Danny asked. "Adaptability," Captain Foster said. "You use the environment as a weapon. You studied your opponents and found their weaknesses. You turned every disadvantage into an advantage. That is what humans do. We survived on Earth not by being the strongest, but by being the smartest and most determined." A Quellan scientist named Dr. Lisa Warren entered the room. She had been studying the recordings of Danny's fights. "I have presented my findings to the Galactic Council," she said. "Humans are persistence hunters. On Earth, you evolved to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. You can function through injuries that would stop most species. Your brains developed to solve problems and create tools. What we thought was weakness is actually a different kind of strength." Danny listened quietly. He had never thought of himself as special. He had just done what he was trained to do. "There is more," Lisa said. "The Krellan Empire has been pushing to have humanity classified as a protected species with limited rights. They wanted us treated like children who need to be watched and controlled. But after your fights, that effort has collapsed. The Galactic Council is now considering full membership for Earth." "That is good news," Danny said. "Yes and no," Captain Foster replied. "Some species respect us now, but others are afraid. And fear can be dangerous." She was right. Over the next 2 weeks, as Danny recovered, the political situation grew tense. Some species welcomed humans as equals. Others argued that humans were too dangerous to be trusted. The debates at the Galactic Council grew heated. Commander Vex, who had arrested Torvik, came to speak with Danny. The Krellan security chief looked uncomfortable. "I owe you an apology," Vex said. "I dismissed the reports of you being attacked by Krellans. I thought humans were too weak to be worth protecting. I was wrong. You have honor and courage. Those are qualities I respect, regardless of species." "Thank you," Danny said simply. "But I must warn you," Vex continued. "Not all Krellans feel as I do. The Empire is angry about what happened. They see your victory as an insult. There is talk of military action." After Vex left, Danny thought about what he had said. The Krellans were a proud warrior species. To them, being defeated by a human was the ultimate shame. They would want revenge. Captain Foster returned the next day with an offer. "We are building Earth's first real defense fleet," she said. "We need people who understand that humans do not win by being the strongest. We win by being the smartest and most determined. We need trainers who can teach others what you showed in that arena. Will you help us?" Danny looked at Kelly. His sister nodded encouragement. "What about Kelly?" Danny asked. "Will she be safe?" "She will be safer if Earth can defend itself," Captain Foster replied. And I am offering her a position too. We need scientists who understand alien biology. Her research could save lives. Danny thought about it. He could go back to Earth and try to forget about everything that happened. Or he could use what he learned to help protect his species. The choice was easy. I will do it, Danny said. 6 months passed. Danny returned to Earth and became a combat instructor for the new Earth Defense Force. He trained soldiers in the tactics he had used in the arena: environmental awareness, studying opponents using intelligence over strength. Earth scientists and engineers worked with galactic technology, adapting it in ways no one expected. Human creativity and innovation led to new designs that surprised alien experts. The first ships of Earth's defense fleet were launched. There were only 8 ships, small compared to the massive fleets of the galactic powers. But they were built using human principles: adaptable, efficient, and creative. Danny stood on the bridge of the flagship, the UES Defender, with Captain Foster. They were conducting training exercises near Mars when the alarm sounded. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel, the sensor officer reported. Configuration matches Krellin battlecruisers. 50 ships total. Captain Foster's face went pale. 50 ships against 8. It was not even a fair fight. A message came through on the main screen. It was Commander Vex, but he was in a military uniform now, not security armor. People of Earth, Vex said. The Krellin Empire has sent me to make an example of your species. You have insulted our honor. You have made us look weak. Now you will learn the price of defying us. Surrender your planet or we will take it by force. The transmission ended. Captain Foster looked at Danny. What do we do? She asked. We cannot fight 50 ships. Danny remembered something his old combat instructor had told him years ago. You do not have to be stronger than your enemy. You just have to be smarter. We do what humans do best, Danny said. We adapt. He pulled up a star chart showing the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Millions of rocks floating in space. An environment full of possibilities. Order all ships to fall back to the asteroid belt, Danny said. We are going to use the same strategy I used in the arena. We will turn the environment into our weapon. Captain Foster gave the orders and the 8 human ships retreated toward the asteroids. The Krellin fleet followed, eager for an easy victory. On Earth below, billions of people watched on screens. The Galactic Council monitored the situation, curious to see if humans could survive. No one offered to help. Earth was alone, but Danny was not worried. The Krellins thought humans were weak. They were about to learn the same lesson Krell had learned in the arena. Strength was not everything. The human ships moved into position among the asteroids. Engineers activated systems they had been installing for months. Weapons were ready. The plan was set. Here they come, the sensor officer said. Danny watched the Krellin fleet approach on the screens. He thought about everything that had led to this moment. The fights in the arena, the pain and fear, the determination to survive. Let them come close, Danny said calmly. Then we show them what humans are really made of. They thought humans were weak, Abari. Then paid the price for letting him fight back. The Krellin fleet moved through space like predators hunting prey. 50 massive warships, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a city. They had expected Earth to surrender immediately. Instead, the 8 human ships had retreated into the asteroid belt. Commander Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human ships on his displays. He felt confident. The humans were running, just as weak species always did when faced with superior force. They hide among the rocks like scared animals, his second officer said. Should we pursue? Of course, Vex replied. We will crush them quickly and move on to Earth. This will be over within the hour. But Danny Carter knew something Vex did not. The asteroid belt was not a hiding place. It was a battlefield, and the humans had been preparing it for months. On the bridge of the Defender, Danny stood beside Captain Foster, watching the Krellin ships enter the belt. The human vessels were spread out, appearing scattered and disorganized. But that was part of the plan. All ships report ready, the communications officer said. Wait for them to commit fully, Danny said. We need them deep in the belt before we act. The Krellin fleet moved deeper, confident in their numbers and power. Their sensors tracked the human ships, but the asteroids made targeting difficult. There was too much interference, too many rocks floating in space. They are in position, Captain Foster said. Danny nodded. Execute Phase 1. Across the asteroid belt, hidden charges that human engineers had planted over months suddenly activated. They were not designed to destroy the Krellin ships. That would take too much power. Instead, they were designed to move asteroids, to change their orbits and trajectories. Dozens of large asteroids began moving, pushed by carefully calculated explosions. They drifted into the paths of Krellin ships, forcing them to slow down and change course. The tight formation of the Krellin fleet began to break apart. "What is happening?" Vex demanded. "Why are the asteroids moving?" His science officer checked the readings. They have been using explosives to alter orbital paths. The humans have turned the asteroid belt into a trap. Vex felt the first touch of doubt. This was not how weak species were supposed to fight. "All ships, reform formation," he ordered. "Do not let them separate us." But it was too late. The Krellin fleet was already scattered among the asteroids. And that was when the human ships attacked. The 8 human vessels did not try to engage in direct combat. They were smaller and less powerful than the Krellin warships. Instead, they used hit-and-run tactics, appearing from behind asteroids, firing quick bursts, then disappearing again before the Krellins could return fire. "Target that human ship," Vex ordered. His weapons officer fired, but the human ship had already moved. The blast hit an asteroid instead, shattering it into thousands of pieces that spread across space like shrapnel. The human ships were not trying to destroy the Krellin fleet. They were trying to separate it, confuse it, and make it destroy itself. Danny watched the battle unfold on the tactical display. It was working exactly as planned. The Krellin ships were firing at moving targets in an environment full of obstacles. Many of their shots missed and hit asteroids instead, creating more debris and making the situation more chaotic. "Phase 2, Danny ordered. The human ships activated a new system, electronic warfare packages that human engineers had designed. They sent false signals into space, creating phantom ships on Krellin sensors. Suddenly the Krellins thought they were facing not 8 ships but 20, then 30, then 50. "There are too many targets," Vex's sensor officer reported. "I cannot tell which are real." "Then fire at all of them," Vex shouted, frustrated. The Krellin fleet opened fire in all directions, wasting ammunition on false targets, while the real human ship stayed hidden among the rocks. One Krellin cruiser firing blindly hit another Krellin ship by accident, then another. The fleet was so scattered and confused that they were damaging each other. Danny spoke into the communications channel that connected all Earth ships. "Phase 3. Target their communications." The human ships unleashed their final surprise. Precise strikes aimed not at destroying Krellin ships, but at disabling their communication arrays. Within minutes, the Krellin fleet could not coordinate with each other. Each ship was fighting alone, blind and confused. Vex realized with growing horror that his fleet was being defeated not by superior firepower, but by superior tactics. The humans were using the same strategy the human Danny Carter had used in the arena. They were using the environment, exploiting weaknesses, and turning the enemy's strength against itself. "Recall the fleet," Vex ordered. "We must regroup outside the asteroid belt." But regrouping in the middle of a battle was difficult and dangerous. As the Krellin ships tried to retreat, the human vessels pressed their advantage. They targeted engines, weapon systems, and sensors. Not trying to kill, but to disable. One by one, Krellin ships went dark, their systems destroyed or damaged. Some tried to fight back, but they were isolated and blind. The asteroids that had seemed like obstacles became shields for the human ships. Finally, Vex's own flagship was hit. A precise strike destroyed his main weapons array. Another hit disabled his engines. His ship was drifting, powerless. Danny opened a communication channel to the Krellin commander. "Commander Vex," Danny said. "This is Danny Carter. You remember me from the station. You came here thinking humans were weak. You came here with 50 ships to make an example of us, but you made the same mistake everyone makes. You measured us by your standards." On his damaged bridge, Vex listened, his pride broken. "Humans are not the strongest species," Danny continued. "We are not the fastest. We do not have natural weapons or armor, But we survived on Earth by being smarter than everything that tried to kill us. We learned to use tools, to change our environment, to think our way through problems. You brought strength. We brought intelligence. And intelligence wins. Danny's voice grew harder. Now you will return to your empire. You will tell them what happened here. Tell them that Earth is not weak. Tell them that humans do not surrender. Tell them that if they come for us again, we will defeat them again. Do you understand? Vex looked at his ruined bridge, at his defeated fleet. 20 of his ships were disabled. The others were damaged and retreating. He had come to crush humanity and instead had been crushed. I understand, Vex said quietly. The remaining Krellin ships limped away, dragging their damaged vessels with them. The battle was over. Earth had won. On the Defender, the crew erupted in cheers. Captain Foster hugged Danny, tears running down her face. We did it, she said. We actually did it. Danny nodded, but he did not celebrate. He knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. News of the battle spread even faster than news of the arena fights had spread. Within hours, every species in the galaxy knew that Earth had defeated a Krellin fleet. Ambassadors from dozens of worlds contacted Earth, wanting to establish trade alliances and diplomatic relations. The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. After hours of debate, they voted to grant humanity full membership and all the rights and privileges that came with it. Ambassador Lisa Morgan stood before the council and delivered a message from Earth. For too long you measured humanity by the wrong standards, she said. You looked at our bodies and saw weakness, but you did not look at our minds, our determination, our ability to adapt and overcome. We do not want to be your enemies. We want to trade, to learn, to cooperate, and to contribute to the galactic community. But make no mistake, we will defend ourselves. We will never be victims. Respect us as equals, or learn the hard way what humans are capable of when threatened. The council members agreed. Humanity was no longer the weakest species in the galaxy. They were something more dangerous. They were the species that refused to give up. Danny returned to Earth a hero, but he did not feel like one. He felt tired. He wanted to see his sister, to rest, to have a normal life. Kelly met him at the spaceport, hugging him tightly. You saved all of us, she said. I just did what humans do, Danny replied. I survived. They walked through the spaceport together, past crowds of people celebrating the victory. Earth's future was bright now. Trade agreements, technology exchanges, and mutual defense pacts were being signed every day. But Danny knew the galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humans might not be the strongest, the fastest, or the most advanced, but they were survivors. They were adapters. They were fighters who refused to lose. Years later, in military academies, across the galaxy, students studied the Battle of the Asteroid Belt. They analyzed human tactics, human innovation, and human determination. A new understanding spread through the galactic community. Strength comes in many forms, and sometimes the species that seems weakest is actually the most dangerous of all. Danny Carter lived a quiet life after the war. He trained soldiers, spent time with his sister, and tried to forget the arena and the battles. But whenever young recruits asked him for advice, he always told them the same thing. Never give up. Never surrender. Use your mind more than your muscles. Turn every disadvantage into an advantage. That is what humans do. That is what makes us special.